cutting edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul is awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. A good day to you, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, and welcome to another Sovereign Soul podcast program. It's a show which stands for love, levity, and liberty, because after all, love is the most powerful force in the universe, and laughter's the best medicine, especially covering serious topics and all matters that are ancient, current, and quantum, right? I'm your host, Brad Wozni, and we have an incredible show for you today. We will be discussing cryptocurrencies, digital assets, and the new era of finance for humanity and what's being ushered in to mankind. And I have a guest, like we've had with all of our shows, who is one of the world's leaders in the topic of cryptocurrency in this space, and comes at this for the first time I've ever found somebody with an incredible spirituality-based background to talk about our sovereignty with digital assets. Now, here's the thing. If you're joining us for the first time, the purpose for having this show, the Sovereign Soul program, is to generate positive and powerful impacts in both your life, those of your loved ones, and the community around you. My purpose directly in sharing these truths and these laughs and these love with you is to help foster a greater world as we fight back against the evil that is being waged on humanity today, and we continue to ascend in this golden era of the Aquarian age. So first of all, directly from my heart, from my soul to you, I want to thank you to the whistleblowers. I want to send gratitude out into the world and love to the digital warriors, the citizen soldiers, the healthcare heroes, the powerful parents, the divine masculine protectors, and divine feminine guardians who are tuning in. Your efforts to stand up and fight for the sovereignty of all souls here and now, it has not been for naught. Keep it up. We are winning, and it is absolutely a beautiful time to be on this new earth and this planet. Now, as a former infantry soldier, trained as a Canadian peacekeeper who had also spent some summers hopping out of helicopters, fighting wildfires in Ontario, the Yukon, I've had a continued calling to serve the greater good. It's in my blood. It's a core of my family and lineage. My younger sister is in Ottawa and still being of great service to the world too. Our family's background holds patriots who stood up and fought against evil during the world wars that we have seen. They have fled from the Nazi fascist regimes in World War I and World War II, landed on the shores of America and Canada, and many of my family members, including grandparents, stood up, soldiered up, put on a uniform, went back to the shores of Europe, landed on the beaches of Normandy as a tank commander, or flew B-17 Lancaster bombers for the 6 years of the air war against the Nazis in World War II. And there are so many other stories like that from people. Now, what I did is I became a spiritual soldier and unleashed that through Reiki. And having become a Reiki master, I realized that through screenwriting and sharing storytelling and songs, I could leverage those skills and be a sovereign soldier, SOULDIER. And that's one of the reasons that I have Christof here on this program for you right now, because he is a sovereign soldier in the world of digital asset and currencies. Now, here's the amazing thing about my guest right now. Christof Melchizedek is a leadership and high performance coach. He's a shamanic facilitator and a curator of epic transformational experiences. How good does that sound, right? It's so yummy. And he's spent 27 years working with Fortune 500 executives, entrepreneurs, pro athletes, experts in health, performance, the healing arts, psychology, and leadership. And on top of that, he has degrees in psychology, physical education, and energy medicine with Brennan Healing Science. And informally, tapping into the world's leading thinkers in health and healing and performance and spirituality and consciousness. Boy, say that 10 times fast. Well, it's this collective wisdom and experience that inspired Christof to establish the Neo-Shamanic Society. It's a school that develops the incredible neo-shamanic facilitators who help people to heal and transform every aspect of their lives. And together, his team and Christof facilitate a growing catalog of masterminds, of experiences around the planet, and projects connecting thought leaders from all verticals who want to grow, evolve their leadership style, and ultimately make the world a better place for humanity. How good is that, right? Well, he's gathered hundreds of on tops of sacred mountains, secluded tropical islands, jungles, ancient pyramids, actually in the later part of this year, about to go back to Egypt. And he's been invited to share on live and virtual stages and podcasts like this with some of the most influential global brands, including Thrive On. It's obviously fun for the guy. And in the end, all you really need to know is he's a husband, he's a loving father, and a man on a mission to help conscious leaders master a new way of living, leading, and loving to serve themselves, their families, and the world. And on top of that, he is also the founder of Conscious Crypto Circle. Christof, welcome to us from your beautiful home and studio in New Zealand. Thank you very much. I am grateful for you to be here on the show and speaking to us on the Sovereign Soul podcast.
Beautiful, Brad, and thank you. And thank you for your beautiful introduction and your own introduction to your family lineage. Sending all of your ancestors my unconditional love and gratitude for all that they have sacrificed and stood up for in this great evolution of our planet. And certainly that World War II was a dark time, an epoch for humanity, and it was thank you to people like your family who were able to stand up for what is right, in much the same way that many have been called to stand up, in more recent times, to the same energy that was around in World War II, what was happening through the pandemic. So beautiful standing for sovereignty, and I love your soldier little tweak. I believe that, there are many awakening consciousness beings who are awakening to their true highest potential as a soul and serving in a way that is serving the light and serving the evolution of our planet in a new way that doesn't necessarily revolve around guns, but revolves around having the ammunition of consciousness, which is really the thing that is going to create the big shift on our planet. So thank you.
Most definitely. And thank you for saying that. I appreciate that, Christof. The revolution that we're at today is consciousness. That is the real revolution here. And it's that battle for that spirituality in mind, everything that allows an individual to express their sovereignty of their soul in this incarnation, or the war being waged on it is to repress and oppress and suppress that sovereignty in individuals. And you have such a unique background. Would you mind just sharing a little bit more of your experiences with the folks and how you came to be where you are today in doing this incredible mission to help awaken humanity and uplift people's lives?
Sure, thank you for the invitation. I'm born in New Zealand and born into what I would call a traditional working class family. My father was a builder and going through all these trials and tribulations, and like all of us, maybe being born into families where there was a fracturing of kind of energies in terms of, my father was holding a lot of aggression, and it was not so harmonious. And I only pre-frame that to really share about some of the circle I had to walk in terms of healing my own consciousness. And being in the Reiki, that deep healing is required for all of humanity through these generations of things that have happened in our family line. Indeed. But I've always been fortunate. I always feel I've followed a calling in my heart. And I have always felt on my path, and part of that was to go study down south in Dunedin in New Zealand, physical education, psychology, and my first thrust out into the world was really working with people, the physical body, physical training, personal training, creating health and well-being for executives. So I had many years, I came off the back of probably almost 20 years of health, well-being and fitness. So I was fortunate enough to, get that level of mastery on the physical body. And over time, through that lens, began to teach many of the protocols I developed around the world. I probably taught in 30 or 40 countries at all the leading top health and fitness conferences, teaching other trainers and all that type of thing, health protocols for results. That was really fortunate. That gave me kind of this, I guess, grassroots education on being able to deliver education to larger numbers of people. So I'm really grateful for that kind of apprenticeship and background. But the lead into my moving into more the healing arts was seeded when I was very young. many of your listeners will resonate with this, that my mother got sick, when I was young. When I was 5, she had a hysterectomy. When she was 13, she had breast cancer. Wow. And like many of you who have experienced cancer with a loved one, a friend, even a family member, you experience and hold space during that. And even though I was 13 for the first round, you very early on get to see and witness how the treatment is worse than the disease. And you get to witness and experience the radiation and the chemotherapy, and you see, vomiting in the morning and the hair coming out. You think, what's going on? What is this? This can't be right. And so when I was 13, I experienced that, and my mother, realized that she wasn't done with her job of bringing us up yet. So she was very strong, managed to make it through. Wow. And then it came back when I was 26, 27. And because, she had, brought us into the world, she just didn't have the fight for it in the same way next time round. But I got to see, the second round of the modern medical through a more adult lens, and then got to really start to pull the thread. So for many people's, let's call it awakening to the control systems, some people come to it through the financial lens and look at the Federal Reserve and look at that, how a small group of families own the central banking system that control the world. I came to this physical control system awakening through the lens of healthcare, and began witnessing the beautiful circle of synergy that the control system had created in terms of, the Monsantos of the world providing genetically modified seeds and pesticides and sprays on the food that was creating the poisoning, and the toxins that were really in the food that was creating all of that. And then how the same hidden companies were actually owning the pharmaceutical world, and how the pharmaceutical world was owning the education of medical doctors, and how medical doctors were put into a very deep conditioning system that was focused on treatment. And the root cause, of course, of healthcare is not really healthcare, it's disease management, is that they don't treat the person, they treat the disease, and they treat the symptoms of the disease. And I very quickly, saw the folly of trying to cut off a diseased leaf of a tree, cutting it off from the leaf, and then, not dealing with the branches and the trunk and the roots and the soil, where really the origins of everything lie. Of course, the tree is going to, tree leaves are going to grow back diseased if you don't deal with the roots. So that was my, direct experience. And then that led me, while I was in the training arts there, sort of when I was a bit more mature in my mid-30s, to begin to explore, of course, early 30s, the emotions and mindset. But really when my life started to take off was when I started in the mid-30s explore the human condition and society from the level of energy, vibration, and frequency. Mm-hmm. And when I began to research that, and I began to have many direct experiences being a physical therapist and trainer, I would often be working physically with people with trigger point therapy, massage, unlocking people's physical bodies. Absolutely. And I remember one time, and some of you will have your own experience like that, and all I'm sharing is my threads that led me to follow the little breadcrumb trails that my higher self and spirit was laying down for me.
Exactly.
I remember having my hands on someone, and I just before I'm about to start a massage session, I put my hands over his lower back. Yeah. And my hands are about maybe that far off his lower back. Mm-hmm. And I'm just holding them there, and all of a sudden he kicks off and goes, "Ow, what are you doing?" And I'm going, "Well, I'm not touching you yet." Yeah. And he goes, "It feels like you're putting a needle into my back." And I said, "Whoa, I haven't touched you yet. Lie back down." And of course, on the inside, at that point, not knowing what I know now, it was hubba, 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 what the hell is going on? So then I put my hands on there again. Sure enough, he kicks off again. And then I just intuitively sort of say, "Listen, do you drink lots of alcohol, by the way?" I don't even know why I asked that question. He just turns up with a surprise and looks at me and goes, "Hell yeah, I'm in the hospitality industry and I get battered every night." Yes. I sort of said to him, "You might want to rethink that strategy. Your kidneys feel very cold." Mm-hmm. And then I didn't realize that went on and changed his life a lot, because he ended up moving out of that when I ran into him a year later. Yes. But what he didn't realize is he changed my life even more, because my curious mind wanted to know how can I not be touching someone and having this visceral, physical, deep effect on his body?
Right.
I've got to check this out. So I began to read books and read quantum physics for fun on a Friday, trying to learn all about this kind of world. And as I started to explore quantum physics, I recognized a couple of the laws of quantum physics, and one of them is non-locality and quantum entanglement. So quantum locality really refers to this ability for two quantum particles to be in instant communication from anywhere in the universe, and because they're entangled. And as I read these other books of mediums and other various medical intuitives who were reading the energy field and being able to diagnose what was going on, it completely changed my let's call it my reality model. So I remember one of those key books, for those of you looking to pick up what I'm putting down and follow some of these breadcrumbs, was Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Myss. And she was a medical intuitive. Dr. Norman Shealy was head of the medical Complementary Medical Association in New York. She's in LA, and for over 13 years they began working together, where he ran a clinic with a load of doctors. He would get the difficult cases. He would phone her in LA, not give her any information except the person's name and date of birth. And over 13 years, she diagnosed the people with the root cause of what was going on from a physical, but not only physical, an emotional, spiritual level, and gave them the direction, what they needed to work on and heal on. And she was 93% accurate over 13 years. And I was blown away by, I was just going, this is bullshit. This can't be true, right? But then luckily I asked myself this key question, because if you ever come into conflict with a existing reality model or a belief system, you always need to ask, what if this was true? What would I need to believe to make this true? And that got me into quantum physics, and then led me to my teacher, Dr. Barbara Brennan, who wrote Hands of Light, Light Emerging, and she's got a third book as well, called Light Healing. Those are three contemporary classic energy medicine textbooks. She was literally the pioneer of energy medicine at a very high level, and I was fortunate enough that I chose to study with her. I went to Austria, commuted from London to Austria for 4 years, and studied and completed her energy medicine program. And we were jokingly calling it a Hogwarts school of magic.
Yes.
So it was a very magical experience, and what it did is it gave me surgical light precision working the energy field. And then I was graduating there, and then I was drawn into the world of psychedelics. And that was around about 2012, and my first toe in the water, and that was working with a plant medicine called iboga, which is a root from Africa, and to this day I still work with this plant in ceremonies. This is a very, very deep dive, and because it's a root, it goes to the root cause of people's trauma and just rips it out. And because of my healing skills, well, the first thing that happened to me was I got put more deeper in my body, healed some of my deeper traumas. And then because of my healing skills, the shaman who was facilitating asked me to join the healing team. And over 2 or 3 years, I flew all around Europe with this incredible team doing these ceremonies and sessions with this extraordinary plant medicine. The same time I was doing that, I went to South America and studied and went into my first initiation with the Shipibos of the Amazon jungle, working with ayahuasca. We did a 15-day dieta and 5 deep dive ceremonies in a very, very isolated camp that was 8 hours from the nearest jungle civilization. Iquitos is the most isolated jungle city in the world, and it was 8 hours by boat from that. So we were very deep in the Amazon. And extraordinary experience with the mother, breaking through the veil, piercing realities and all of this type of thing. But then, of course, I was fortunate as also that the facilitator saw my potential and my healing abilities and asked me to come back and co-facilitate with them. So I went back and started to go do co-facilitation. And then for the next 10 years, I took groups twice a year for 15-day dietas and getting a very deep shamanic apprenticeship from the Shipibo lineage. So after a while going through the psychedelic process, once you start in human initiations, when you start clearing out your lower energy centers, you start working through the, let's call it the egoic conditioning, which is the egoic deficiencies, the ego's deficiencies that we all receive from our conditioning growing up. As we come through as we're born, we spend 9 months in the womb. We pick up all the imprints in our mother's womb. We pick up all the energies between our parents, and the first physiology, the first frequency that hits the physiology is very important in how it layers into your cells and how you respond to the world. Is the world a safe place? Is the world not a safe place? Then into your first year, when the first chakra is trying to bring your consciousness and root it into the ground. If it's not safe at home, or there's a lot of conflict at home, your consciousness doesn't feel safe, and you end up with a leaving pattern when you're more up here than down here. And then it tries to come into the core, where you find a good sense of self, of who you are, and you can differentiate yourself between you and what other people's stuff is. And so that energy is really important as it develops us psychodynamically and shapes what I might call our energetic operating system, which is the way our consciousness, bioenergy field, and DNA work and operate together to create and shape our reality. So I think it's worthwhile spending 3 minutes unpacking that, because your listeners will get a very clear model of reality. And then I'll come back into the finishing that story. Our system operates exactly like a movie projector. So if you can imagine sitting in a theater watching, the latest Maverick Top Gun movie, if you want to watch it, or anything, or any other movie you can imagine, let's focus on the metaphor. The movie that you're seeing on the screen, if you don't like what you're seeing, and this is the same as life, most people would you wouldn't go to the screen to try to change the movie. But that's what most people are doing in their life. They're trying to go to the screen, to the external reality, and trying to come up with strategies, tactics, and plans to change their reality. Okay, if I do this tactic or create this plan, then things are going to be different. But the way that your operating system is working is built off conditioning that includes woundings. So at the core level, you've got an energetic wound, which is an unhealed trauma. An unhealed trauma from the childhood, or pieces of the puzzle you did not receive from your parents, i.e. enough love, or a very present father, and all of these types of iterations. All of you can imagine your upbringing and all that energy interacting with your system. The first years are important because you don't have any screens over your chakras. So the chakras are just absorbing all that energy, whatever's in the household with your parents are coming straight into you as deep level conditioning, embedded at the unconscious mind level, where all your latent deep memories are stored. Mm-hmm. Now these trapped pockets of energy and emotion, these woundings, you spend the rest of your life trying to avoid. But the problem is that the way the matrix is set up, it's beautiful in its design, eloquent in that it's based upon vibration, right? So of course, that vibration is low, you're going to attract anything that is of a similar vibration towards you for the purpose of healing. So you end up drawing towards you these circumstances for healing. And then around the outside of that, you have these energetic defenses, wall, mask, ego, and you're doing all that you can from the ego standpoint to prevent that energy coming into contact with the wound. And that's how you end up deviating from your true essence. So what I began to master and become to realize directly especially through the energy medicine, but in particular through psychedelic therapy such as ayahuasca and iboga and San Pedro and psilocybin, all the things I've been doing for many, many years with people, they give you access to that wound and able to open it up more faster than what it might take organically. It allows your conscious mind to be taken out a little bit and the energy and frequency to go in, open up that wound, clear it. Because what most people are doing their whole life is that they have a thought and feeling where they feel triggered from an external event, a person that they themselves have drawn towards them because of the wound. That reminds them of the same energy of what caused the wound in the first place. Simple example might be a girl grows up in a family, their father is full of infidelities and alcohol and is more predatory in his sexual behavior, ends up having a lot of affairs, ends up splitting when the girl's 5 or 6 years old from the family field, and she ends up with this fractured perception and wounding of the masculine. She therefore, as she comes into life, she ends up attracting that similar predatory type perpetrator energy in the perpetrator victim consciousness field, which brings it together and ends up attracting abusive and faithful men until she heals that wounding. And it's the healing and the wounding, then only then can you start to draw towards you higher quality person, event and timeline from the quantum field, because you're no longer attracting that because the vibration's no longer there. So the thoughts and feelings that come up, I'm not safe, I don't trust this man, because they have trust issues with men, so of course they attract untrustworthy men. They draw that towards them. The thoughts and feelings kick off. Underneath the thoughts and feelings, the belief, I'm not safe, I don't trust men. Underneath the belief is the constellation of unmet need, faulty programmed chakras, right? And then underneath that is the wound. And that constellation of the wound, the unmet need, the programmed energy centers, the belief that is formulated from that unmet need and trapped consciousness creates the thoughts and feelings that they draw towards them, and the belief ends up attracting them towards them.
Hey everybody, it's Brad here. Our show will continue in a moment real quick. If it resonates with you, drop a like, follow us, and subscribe to the show. Hear from cutting edge guests who are experts in their field, have a lot of laughs, and discover some powerful tips on how you can thrive through 2025 in this amazing golden era of humanity. So give us a like, drop a comment, follow us right now as we fight back on the war being waged on humanity right now. And by the way, if you feel so inclined, please do share this with 9 friends, family, and colleagues as well. I'm deeply honored you're listening to this. Thank you for doing so right now. For those, many of you who have taken that step. And here we go, back to our show.
Towards them. So that's kind of the picture of conditioning, and I got very expertly, deeply involved in healing that constellation for many years, and that led me to set up the neo-shamanic society, where I teach this for healers. Now, to finish off the metaphor, most people are trying to change the screen, but you don't go to the screen if you want to change the movie. You go up to the movie projector. And in this metaphor, to finish this off, the movie projector has 3 components that you really need to focus on to change your life. The first up, of course, is no surprise, the film is key. And in our human experience, that film is our DNA. Our DNA contains all the potentials, possibilities, but also pockets of pain that prevent us from fully shining. And it's all about the speed of the wavelength of light that comes in to access the DNA. So, for example, your DNA can be involved in the more shadow states. The shadow states are kind of where our DNA is glitchy and we experience a little bit of glitchiness in our life. The light that shines onto the film is our consciousness. So if you have only got a little pen light ball of consciousness, you're only going to get a very small projection on the screen. Yeah. Right, tiny little amount of projection. But if you've got like a spotlight ball of spotlight size of consciousness coming onto the movie projector film, suddenly you're blasting out in 4K. And the last piece of this metaphor is the lens. The lens on which this movie projector is operating through are like your energy centers, your chakras. And all of our chakras have got programmed grit and dirt and pieces on it, so that as the light comes through the DNA and shines out through the lens, you have distorted perceptions of reality that are projecting your reality based upon your own internal imprints. And that is kind of this pathway of possibility and potentiality and opportunity that all of us have to upgrade our consciousness, to work through that conditioning, to fulfill our potential. And that's really been my life path and story over these last many years of supporting people as an accelerated way through that process.
Well, thank you for that. There's a few points I would like to make in compounding that, and people may hear some of this differently, the way that I would interpret it. And by the way, what you've heard from Christof is exactly the same way as I've learned it, just said a different way. But it all comes down to that core and that nutshell of the experience of what is coded within you, whether you want to use the metaphor that your DNA is like a laptop, and once you reprogram it with a different variation of software and some of the hardware too, which is also the nutrition that goes into your laptop or your DNA in the physical, in the spiritual realm, as well as you cleanse it, you'll allow your unique expression to shine even more and your gifts to come forward in the world. In my experience, I was one of 4, but I was only the only of the quadruplet that survived through the birth. We lost one in the first trimester, second trimester, and then they did an emergency C-section. And my sister at the time, she died. And then I was in the NICU for 2.5 weeks. They wouldn't allow the mother to see that. Yeah. Now, the amazing experience that I had, Christof, is number one, mother never said that. Didn't know about that until I went back And I was taken there in an amazing regression. And then all of a sudden now this came forward because it was very traumatic for her as well,
course, yeah.
from my father. So my life also changed as a result of going back there, learning about this, working on that, healing it. And so many things in my life changed and became a lot more easy to me as a result of those experiences. Some that I may have, consciously blocked, because I believe we're all aware we can tap in. You've heard about quantum entanglement, quantum physicists. This is why people can also time travel, go into different dimensions and still remain in communication with each other. Same thing with souls, in past lives, current lives, and lives that have crossed over the veil, where psychics and mediums, as you well, can speak to them, because that energy is still there. It's just a different state, or a vibrationary state that they're able to tune into. Just like I can pick up my iPhone and we can get a Wi-Fi or a Bluetooth frequency or a cellular frequency, an LTE or a 5G frequency, that psychics and mediums can do that. And the same thing with the spiritual healing. So that the way that you pulled it together is a way I haven't heard before. And I am so deeply grateful that you shared that as well, because many people, many truthers, many light workers can go out and say the same information, but it resonates at a different level with people. One of the other things that's really neat too, you mentioned about the plant medicine, and that Navy SEALs and Delta Force operators right now, you can go look at them online, the Sean Ryan Show, Navy SEAL guy who's had DJ Shipley on, former SEAL Team 6 special operator, and a couple of other people, including Tu Lam, who is a U.S. Army Delta Force operator, that they went and they did that plant medicine, the Africa, Iboga. And these, at least DJ Shipley said this. He said, many times I was ready to put the gun in my mouth and pull the trigger. Now, he had hundreds of combat engagements in all of his tours, and that as a Navy SEAL and a member of Navy SEAL Team 6, DevGru. And it was this that stopped it. So went through all of that stuff, that pharmacological, and then also sitting on a couch and speaking to that. So I'm sure you're likely aware of it.
Honor the wood. This is why my wife and I work with it predominantly at the moment, is because with the mother ayahuasca, it's a vine, so it's climbing your consciousness out, and it's wonderful for people to break through the veil of perception and see how everything's all connected. But for healing our deep level conditioning, in my opinion, nothing beats the wood. It's actually, a lot of people don't know this about it. Well, I call the wood iboga. I call it the wood for tracking purposes, so people can not be tagged on the socials. But the piece to it is that it was called the tree of knowledge in the Bible. This is what they were referring to, because of course all of that is all linked in that epoch through that era. But the tree of knowledge,
the tree that we have as a symbol on the Sovereign Soul Show, we have the tree, Michelangelo's sword, and the heart. So that tree of knowledge, that boga, is exactly what you're speaking about. Please continue. Thank you.
Yeah, because it not only takes you down into the core wound, right, and pulls it, like literally pulls it out, it plugs you straight into the Godhead as well. So it's completely mystical. That's why we've been navigating such extraordinary things on the wood over these years, and more recently you'll find interesting. Yeah, I'll share this because it's we're on the Sovereign Show. I've been for years trying to find the Cabal's control systems, right? Which is basically the control systems which have been locking down the planet. Because as you're aware, everything that happens physically has an energetic counterpart. So the reason why humanity hasn't been able to shift out of the control systems of how the military industrial complex, the pharmaceutical industry, the education system, the institutions such as universities, which are all part of that same control system, held together by the financial banking system, controlled by the secret societies and the groupings up top. This has been locked down our planet for thousands of. This has been seeded thousands of years ago. Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was where it first started. And so we've been searching for the energetic pockets of consciousness where they have been holding the spells, the sorceric spells, holding everything together. And thanks to the wood and what I call the guardians, a group of non-physical beings who live on the higher realms, that have been helping us interface with this. It was all through synchronicity. We went, but I was looking for the keys and codes to find it. Through the wood, we found the whole lot. We've found, and we're still unraveling it. We've found the entire system where they have been locking down the planet in terms of all the structures, all the control systems. And so we're about, according to the Guardians, 35% through right now dismantling this, and they're just freaking out, wondering what the hell's going on, because you can imagine their psychics are just going, everything's being pulled. So to give you a sort of a hint of what this looks like, deep in ritual, about 3 a.m. on death night, we go in with a stealth team. It's me, my wife, another brother who's a very high level. He can see, he's got the best sight I've ever seen. Awesome. And a couple of others that sit with us in the circle while the group is doing their stuff. We go to the higher temple, we plug in, and we go deep down, and we found these keys. And the first thing that how this came about was that under each capital city there was a dodecahedron. Inside the dodecahedron, I'm talking energetically, of course, in the spiritual planes. Dodecahedron followed by a locked chest box. Okay. Inside the locked chest box, we had to solve all the puzzles. We had to solve all the spiritual puzzles to open up all these things, because they were all coded with spells to lock them down. Right. And then we open up the box, and inside there's all the contracts, the spiritual contracts tying the cabal to the government. Then inside there, we take out those, and then there's the trapped dragon. The dragons, or the nagas, are important because they activate the ley lines of the land. And of course, what they did in the control system is placed all the churches on the meridian points around the land. City, and locking it all down. They locked down the line, so they locked out. They wanted the dragons gone, so the dragons were all locked out. Dragons got released, and then as we started to do all the capital cities, we started. The first place we were taken to was the Vatican. And what happened is that the Vatican around that spot had 13 massive pillars with chains tied to it, reaching out to all the major, maybe 7 pillars, reached out to all the major continents. Then each continent and their capital cities had the same, with chains leading down to all the countries, or in America, all the states. And that was basically the lock system, of the first stage of the control system, that we had to go in and reverse engineer all that out, free the contracts, clear the dragon, open the boxes, and dismantle all the chains, all the way back to the Vatican, where those pillars all fell. And then since then, it's been this just crazy, galactic Earth story of finding every sort of 6-8 weeks when we do a session. Wow. Different pieces of the puzzle that have been holding this extraordinary, complex, energetic control system together in the matrix. And so that has been what humanity has been facing. And what's been a gift, I think, has been the pandemic, right? Or the plandemic, right? The virus.
That's the word that I use in the show. It's pandemic. Yes.
Yeah. So it's because what that did was that before that, not many people could see the control systems, right, because the physical side of it, you can't read. But then when the whole world on concert locks itself down, people who couldn't see started to see. So actually this kind of process was actually like a speeding up catalyst of awakening for people, because many people started to wake up who wouldn't normally look into it. And so what this has transpired is this extraordinary awakening of humanity, seeing the physical control system. And when you have to see the physical control system, and then as you advance in spirituality, you sense to see the pockets of consciousness, energy, vibration, frequency, and the spiritual dimensions which are locked down. That's where the true templates are. So these templates, I just want to let your listeners know, are collapsing. Okay, they're falling away, and these collapsing of these structures and templates, spiritually, energetically, that we're holding the physical things in place, are dissolving, and what's coming is this beautiful birthing of new. Right, because those structures which have been held together since Babylonia are falling. We're shifting into a new epoch of time, and part of this is this extraordinary, beautiful galactic synchronicity of Earth's trajectory through the astrological ages, as we're moving, into the Aquarian age out of the Piscean age. And right now, astrologically, we've got the power of Pluto that is coming into its last sort of degree as it moves out of that era into this next one. And why Pluto is significant is that Pluto is the great revealer of shadows. what Pluto does, Pluto's all about power, but what it does, it brings up from the deep unconscious things to the surface to look at. So that's why COVID kind of happened, as this beautiful Saturn-Pluto conjunction happened in early 2020. You couldn't like the scripting of it's beautiful, because these planetary archetypes are sending this coding of frequency, energy, and vibration to the planet. So we've got Saturn, which is control, structure, hierarchy, interfacing with Pluto, and Pluto is kind of the revealer of shadows. So everyone got to see the structures and control systems when that conjunction happened. And then more recently, you know, end of December 2020, we had the great conjunction of Jupiter Saturn, which was you know, often referred to as the Star of Bethlehem, which is starting to usher in this incredible energy. The most important thing right now is Pluto's coming to the last degree of its time in Pisces, or is it Capricorn? Most importantly, it's coming into Aquarius. And the last degree of that kind of movement through is when everything comes up. So the next couple of years, we're going to see a rinsing out of all the revealing of what's going on. Much more revealing to come in the next couple of years. We've got a little bumpy time, but we're transitioning into a golden epoch, whereby the energy, frequency, and consciousness that is streaming into the planet, as well as emerging from within the planet, is affecting the morphogenic fields of the grids of where humanity is, and of course humans live on those morphogenic fields and grids. And so what's happening is that people are waking up, because the faster wavelengths are coming into the planet through the sun neutrines, which are blasting all the solar codes into the earth. These solar codes are affecting our bioenergy field and DNA, creating a spontaneous evolution, spontaneous awakening. Those people that are actively working on their energy, frequency, and vibration and consciousness are accelerating their opening. Like the signal that on your phone, they're beginning to receive true source, because previously humanity's been under illusion of true source, under false father god regimes, where the religious structures have created false perceptions of reality of the false father god, the patriarchal god that created all the domineering religions through the lineage of Abraham, which was the line of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Every single one of those control systems of religious mind programming devoid of the feminine principle. So what's happening now is these source codes of the Trinity are coming. Divine Father.
Hey everybody, it's Brad here. Our show will continue in a moment real quick. If it resonates with you, drop a like, follow us, and subscribe to the show. Hear from cutting edge guests who are experts in their field, have a lot of laughs, and discover some powerful tips on how you can thrive through 2025 in this amazing golden era of humanity. So give us a like, drop a comment, follow us right now as we fight back on the war being waged on humanity right now. And by the way, if you feel so inclined, please do share this with 9 friends, family, and colleagues as well. I'm deeply honored you're listening to this. Thank you for doing so right now, for those many of you who have taken that step. And here we go, back to our show.
Coming. Divine Father, Divine Mother, and Divine Child. The tri-wave frequencies are now coming back to the planet, allowing humanity with their consciousness to plug directly, more easily, bypass the false father god that's been controlling all of this, the demiurge, and plug directly into true source, which is a feminine and masculine consciousness field, that when we as a human polarity integrate our feminine and masculine consciousness, from that emerges the Christ consciousness of the child. And the return of Christ was never one being. It was a consciousness field. It was a frequency that you can plug into when you do enough spiritual work and polarity integrate your feminine and consciousness, unlock your heart, and then you can step into that broadcast as the Christ consciousness within you begins to emerge. And what's happening now is that these new souls coming into the planet under this frequency of time are coming in with a higher template. And so in a very short few years, as more and more people wake up, as people with these awarenesses and energetic expansion of consciousness come into positions of influence, we will see a great transition outside of hierarchy to synarchy. And this is a massive movement. And synarchy is sin is without rulers. Sin is together, and archy is without rulers. So together without rulers, we emerge to organize ourselves. And this is where our segue into the technology comes. That blockchain technology is unity consciousness expressing itself as tech. And so what does that mean? Well, that means that this technology, this way of organizing ourselves, means that at community level, we can organize ourselves without rulers. We are able to organize ourselves based around our own value compass and ideas, using the technology in a trustless system to be able to create new societal structures. And for that reason, I call the cryptosphere and cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, as a real key for humanity, because it's going to allow us to organize ourselves without governments, without the corruption. It's the ultimate truth machine. So, the first digital disruption was the computer. The personal computer. Then years later came along the internet, which networked those computers together. That was the start of the metaverse. And then what we saw was the internet speeds getting faster, eventually until we could get internet into something that size. We had the smartphone, which was a third digital disruption. And here's my prediction, Brad. The fourth digital disruption is blockchain technology. This is going to be more impactful on humanity and society than the other three combined. And if you think about that, if you're listening at the moment, think about how computers, the internet and smartphones have changed our lives. Why would I say that blockchain technology is going to be a greater disruption than all of them combined? It's for this simple reason, that it's going to change the social structures of humanity. It's going to change the way we organize ourselves out of hierarchy, outside of where the power is at the center. The power is going to shift to the periphery, where it gets put back into our hands as community leaders and as community beings, organizing ourselves around a benevolent artificial intelligence that's here to support and assist humanity going forward. And right now we're in a little bit of a wrestling match where, is it going to be used as a control system? Is it going to be used as a sovereign system for humanity to organize ourselves? Well, I believe in humanity. I believe in the good of people who are going to rise up, who are not going to go. And you can already see it happening. If we go back to what happened last year with Apple. Okay, so Apple and the iOS system 14, their latest operating system, they decided that they're going to be a privacy company. Okay, and what does that mean? Okay, so what they decided to create an opt-in on your phone with the latest update on the software last year, that you can choose whether you want to share your data with third parties. Previously, the models of Facebook and Google, which have been algorithms of harvesting humanity's data and selling that data to advertising, which has been a PSYOP social system for government control because they got funded early on in the days by government, use it as a social monitoring system. They were getting all the data from the iPhones. And when this update came out, commentators kind of thought, maybe 10% of people, maximum 15 to 20, will opt out of having their data shared with third parties. 88% of users opted out of having their data shared. What that tells us is that there's an awareness right now that we don't want to be in a control system. I don't want to have my data, overheard in conversation and pushed over to Facebook, which serves me up an ad. I feel that's intrusive. I feel that people want privacy now. So that zeitgeist of privacy hasn't really been there before, but I think it's here now. And so with this and other various technological upgrades that are coming, humanity is going to be able to use blockchain technology to reorganize ourselves without leaders, to allow algorithmic programs to basically run systems and processes in our world. And it's going to upend the very inverted systems that we've been operating under. An inverted system is a system that we think is helpful, but it's actually a control system. And I've listed them all previously around the military industrial complex, education, pharmaceutical industry, all that crew. Those inverted systems will start reorganizing themselves. And as more and more people are waking up, especially the programmers, we're all finding new innovative ways to organize themselves. And really right now we're in the development stages of it. It's a theoretical construct. People are pushing the envelope, trying things on, making things happen, breaking it. That doesn't work, this works. And this is probably going to take 5 to 10 years to really kind of embed in. But it's part of what we might call the great wealth transfer, the great systems transfer, as we transition from the old over into the new, and this technology is a big part of that evolutionary process as humanity then becomes more sovereign.
Most definitely. And thank you for that. What I'd like to do is summarize in a similar way what you've just covered in the last 45, 50 minutes, Christoph, and starting right back at the pharmacological food industry as well as military industrial complex. I mean, if you think about it, folks, if you have a food industry that is creating the drugs, and like Christoph said, you have chemicals being sprayed on the food that make you sick, like in his experience with his mother at the age of 13, and then back when he was 26 and 27. And then you're going to the same system, control system, that is here to say we will make you healthier. Don't you see that there's a conflict of interest here, right? Don't you see there's a conflict of interest? So these are for the people that are maybe not so far in the awakened state, but this helps bring them forward. And in addition to that, in 2006, I read The Creature from Jekyll Island. Now, Christoph mentioned in the very beginning is that there's a group of families that controlled the Federal Reserve System, which is a private corporation, which is an offshore of the United States. And that corporation sets and prints the money for the central banks around the world, which then lend it out to the country banks as a private corporation for profit, not a government. And you can go back to that, and there's also a lot of information that's come out about the sinking of the Titanic and why that sinking happened, as well as the duality that took place with its sister twin ship. But we're not going to go into that right now because of the time we have, but you can certainly find and research that online. But these are just some things to be mindful of as well. In Canada, under the CRA, Canadian Revenue Agency, or the Internal Revenue Service in the United States, well, it just so happens that those are private corporation, Internal Revenue Service, based out of Puerto Rico, and that we have learned in the IRS tax code in 2021, and we're in 2022, that it's still there in the code, that federal income tax is a voluntary payment by American citizens, and the only ones that are actually required are those that live in the District of Columbia, which is actually not a city in the United States of America under the Constitution. Go ahead and take a look at that. Or you are a federal employee of the American government. Beyond that, everything else is voluntary. So these systems that he's speaking about and breaking down and crumbling is why the masses are awakening. And we talk about the term government gets thrown out on a lot. Remember that the term government comes from the Latin verbs governus mentis, which is to control the mind. Literally to control the mind control, right? Flip-flop it. And that's where the governments are coming from. And we talk about sovereignty of the souls, you've got the health and the spiritual freedom, and then also the financial freedom in crypto. And a couple of things that have just come up in the last few weeks, since March 22nd of this year, the world banking system uncoupled Russia from the SWIFT banking system. 3 billion people in the world can no longer, at least 3 billion, half the world's population can no longer buy or trade the US reserve currency dollar at that time. Now it has fallen for the first time since the 1960s as the world's current reserve currency is the fiat system. This is a system created back in Babylonian times as well to where we are now. And last week, Russia launched its first blockchain technology, and all EU countries and nearly every central bank in the world is buying up silver and precious metals. And if you want to buy gas or oil or any energy from Russia as a member of the EU, they said you either buy in rubles or you buy in gold, or now you're going to have to buy in this new digital currency system that they and China and India are creating. And this is the new economy where everything's moving to. So, Christoph, where we stand today, we've got half the world's population can no longer trade on the stock markets because they're tied to the SWIFT system. They're going to the blockchain system that is being created, being ushered in, literally, it has been created, being ushered in by Russia, China. It's just a fact, regardless of your politics, folks, you got to stay aware of this and why it's coming through with a benevolent spin on it versus a malevolent. Hey everybody, it's Brad here. Our show will continue in a moment real quick. If it resonates with you, drop a like, follow us, and subscribe to the show. Hear from cutting edge guests who are experts in their field, have a lot of laughs, and discover some powerful tips on how you can thrive through 2025 in this amazing golden era of humanity. So give us a like, drop a comment, follow us right now as we fight back on the war being waged on humanity right now. And by the way, if you feel so inclined, please do share this with 9 friends, family, and colleagues as well. I'm deeply honored. Conscious Crypto Circle.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first come into the awareness of crypto 2016, and I looked into it, and I just went, whoa. This, because I had the energetic sensitivity to be able to sense and see the future, because what we do is I'm reading energy fields. So reading energy fields is not like reading charts. Reading trading charts, you're trying to predict the future by what's happened in the past. Actually, reading the energy fields, you can just read the future. But right. the tricky thing is that you it's hard to get the exact time, because you're dealing with fields of energy that are yet to drop into physical matter. What you're seeing is the energetic templates. What I saw on the energetic templates back in early 2017 was this, just in the future, this whole new thing. And I went, holy smokes, this thing is going to be running the entire world in 10, 20 years time. I didn't know the exact kind of time frame, but as a big picture macro thinker, I just make those big picture macro bets. I go, well, if that's going to be the future, I need to research this and start getting into it, because in 2015, I had my first son, Noah, and I've subsequently had another daughter, Aurora. But when I looked in my son's eyes for the first time, I went, wow, life's just got serious. Yeah. I need to get prosperous, wealthy, and abundant. I need to focus on the money side of things, so I can give him a life I could never dream of when I was young. So that was kind of my catalyst for then, not just working on spirituality and consciousness. Yeah. I gotta start to really, push the needle on the money game. So when I saw the changing over of the system, the inevitability of it. Basically, I knew this is inevitable. This is where it's going. This is planned. Bitcoin and Ethereum will be global money in the years ahead. And of course I knew all the control system with central banking. So, being said, I got into crypto, found about late 2016, started buying early 2017, and then started to acquire, just good projects, layer one projects that were going to run the system. And the metaphor here right now, where we're at in this time, is that when the car came out, the automobile in the early 1900s, at first those vehicles were trying to drive on roads that were designed for horse and carriage. Right, so there was this period of time where there were potholes and things. There was no petrol stations. There was no infrastructure designed for cars. The whole infrastructure had to get rebuilt. But what was important was that the technology of the car was far superior to the horse and cart, and it provided an evolutionary leap in humanity's trajectory that required the infrastructure build out to support this new ways that we could transport ourselves. Exactly the same thing's happening right now. Instead of horse and cart and car, we've got blockchain technology versus the old systems, the old ledger system of organizing ourselves. So we are in the process of reorganizing the structures and systems to support this technology. At the moment, the market capitalization of it is very low. It's had an all-time high of around 3 trillion, and now it's down about under 1 trillion. If you're following crypto, it's had a decent pullback. None of it's got to do with crypto. All of it's got to do with macroeconomic kind of conditions and the backdrop of what we're going through. Basically, everything else is going up. Adoption's going up. It's the fastest growing adopted technology in the world. 130% growth a year in terms of users. The network effects is increasing. The amount of investor capital income, money to invest in projects is increasing. The prices aren't, where they are right now, not because of the projects are faulty. It's just because everyone's freaking out about the increasing interest rates that the central bank private family players are squeezing up by increasing interest rates. So the main piece, if you're new to the sphere of crypto, is that the choice point is that this is an inevitability in the same way that FPOS was an inevitability when that first came out. In New Zealand, we call it FPOS, electronic funds transported at point of sale. Being able to pay with your debit card and at shops. If you look a similar age to me, I'm nearly 50, you might be in your 40s. When we were young, we lived through the transition from cash into debit cards. Before you used to have to go to a bank to get cash out, and if you went out and spent all your money on a Friday night, you had to really sort of suffer in silence all through the weekend, right? Yeah. Until the cards came out, then the hole in the wall came out, you could go get cash out, but then FPOS terminals came into shops, and that was an improvement and a leap in that technology. But it took 5-10 years really to get them everywhere. Well, the same thing's happening now with this new technology. In 5 years, this thing's going to be everywhere. It's growing at 130% a year. So if you take a look at, say, 300 million crypto users, 130% a year takes it to 500 million in a year, then 1.2 billion in another year, then 2.5 billion, the year after. We've just got this exponential kind of growth. And so the bet is jump on the elevator and just follow that trajectory. Now, the elevator like that doesn't go like that. The general trend when you zoom out looks like that, but when you're living it, it looks like this. But that's where it's going. So if you've got, I love that meme, right? Yeah, that's my favorite crypto meme. HODL refers to hold on for dear life. You get into crypto, you think it's going to be like that at the top, but actually it's actually like that at the bottom. But all you need to know is that if you've got money that you can afford to be without for, let's call it at least a 2 to 3 year period, and it's not going to put at risk your current lifestyle, just start getting involved, start looking into, start off with Bitcoin and Ethereum. These are going to be global money in the future. And the area I'm really excited about, Brad, is NFTs. This is crypto's consumer moment, non-fungible tokens. There's going to be so much innovation in the way we organize ourselves, the way we operate is going to be built off non-fungible tokens. So we're in an extremely exciting time through a process of a great wealth transfer where this technology allows us to do business directly together without intermediaries. So for those of you that are new to crypto, if I wanted to send you, say, $10,000, and I live in New Zealand and you live in America, Brad's referred to the SWIFT system, and the joke about SWIFT, of course, is not very swift at all. That's the thing about it. It's slow. It takes me 2 to 3 days to send money from my bank account to your bank account, but we're dealing with the intermediaries of banks. My bank might not let me send over $10,000 overseas. Could stop it. If I've got other transactions they don't like or have put to charities they don't like. And your bank might not let you take that cash out of the bank. The bank controls your money, but might not let you have access to it. This technology allows us to send directly to one another without intermediaries. So this whole thing of this technology providing us to be able to do business without intermediaries is collapsing every single industry. Insurance and finance is taking out all the third-party operators in a decentralized way that is allowing it. Now, because it's so new, yes, it's getting battle tested. Some projects aren't working. Some projects are breaking. Mostly, it's the centralized projects that are busting up right now. The likes of Celsius coming under pressure right now because they've over-leveraged. So the superior decentralized solutions that are battle tested are going to form the layers of the fabric going forward, and the business model of Facebook and Google is dead. People don't want their data harvested anymore and sold to advertisers. They're going to control their own identity. They're going to control their own data. They're going to put an NFT on it, sell it to advertisers themselves if they don't mind their data being sold, get the money fully themselves rather than Facebook and Google. So many social structures are changing. So many things are evolving, and this is the technology that's accelerating us through the control into freedom. But of course, the same players who have set up the control system are trying to use this very same technology to be able to create greater control. So here we have this, two paths. One where we end up in a digital prison, one where we end up digitally sovereign. And the only people who get to write that story is us. We the people. We decide, not them. We decide where we choose to spend it and to use it in a way that keeps us free and sovereign. And that's what kind of really led me to set up the Conscious Crypto Circle. Basically just for spiritually evolving people. And to be honest with you, Brad, it's not really I would call it sweet spot of sweet spots, where my spiritual purpose is in the healing arts. But I saw this incredible need, and because I had all these psychics approach me and said, hey, are you checking out crypto? All my guides are telling me to check out crypto. I said, yeah, I'm in crypto for sure. You should check it out. I said, I got no idea about it. Can you teach me? Yeah, I'll show you how to do it. No worries. Then more psychics came, and then energetically sensitive people, and they said, "Can you teach?" And then some influencers came. Can you teach my network how to do this? And so I kind of.
I'm deeply honored you're listening to this. Thank you for doing so right now. For those many of you who have taken that step, and here we go back to our show.
And so I kind of fell accidentally into crypto. It was by accident, and essentially it started as an underground movement since 2017, sharing and teaching people about this, and it's grown into something quite extraordinary now. Now we have a team of 25, 30 full-time people serving our community. It's really kind of, I think, a unique niche where we kind of take a look at three things. We take a look at and I think this is what makes us unique. We take a look at the energetics, we take a look at the fundamentals and the technicals. So most people are taking a look at fundamental analysis or technical analysis. We do kind of both of that, but we also take a look at energetic analysis, where my team, I love the spirit. When you're awake, it's a bumpy ride, right? But when you know that you're going to be safe in the unknown future, that is the biggest, I would say, leap that you can make in your life, because a lot of people don't feel safe in the unknown. And what happens makes them trapped to feel unable to follow their heart, because their mind is trying to work out, if I leave my job, which I don't like, how are my financial needs going to be met? Right. So the fear of leaving the security of the money, even though it's a prison line, prevents them from doing it. But it's just a program. It's not the truth. The truth is, the benevolent, loving creator wants to support you on your pre-birth soul agreements. These pre-birth soul agreements are the agreements your soul made coming into this planet to walk a certain path. This is where this sits in your high heart, your spiritual compass. Literally, you will be supported by the benevolent creator every step along the way. You have to be able to break through the fear paradigm and the fear prison that the control systems have created, and the fracturing of family and society, to know that you are safe in the unknown. And when you know you're safe in the unknown, you can take that leap of faith like Indiana Jones did on that scene. Remember the scene where he had to walk across the bridge and he had to hold his hand and just take that step? That's what you have to do in life all the time. That's that spiritual meme of, like, you have to trust that every step you will be safe and held. And it's not a theoretical construct, it's a program that's linked to your first chakra of this fear of survival or feeling safe in the future. And that's linked to the first 9 months in the womb and the first 12 months out of the womb, how that energy was around you. Did you feel safe, supported, and nurtured so that your first chakra could actually root into the earth, so you feel completely plugged and connected with the mother, the real mother, Mother Earth, the mother of us all. And that piece is really, when you can solve that puzzle, that are the freedom keys right there. Right, that's the first step of the freedom keys. And then, of course, you've got to work on your self-esteem and personal power. Most people's self-esteem is such where they are navigating life according to the opinions of others. How will this person think about that if I do that? How will those other people think? So they either big themselves up and bump up a big ego to try to make themselves seem more impressive to others, or belittle themselves and shrink back by like a shrinking violet, because I don't want I'll get the first hit on myself. So these little internal pieces prevent us from following clearly our heart's longing. But when you do the inner work, then you can experience the external blooming of life. And that's why in the Conscious Crypto Circle, we're about to release the Alchemy of Abundance. And the Alchemy of Abundance is both the internal game and the external game. Beautiful. And so as you have to look at your the energy quotient, the macro energetics, what's going on, your consciousness quotient, how your operating systems works, your frequency quotient as your vibrational frequency, where you're at right now, and your intelligence quotient, what's going on in the markets and where to position yourself. So the abundance is not what you have, it's who you are. And when you can embody that frequency, you match the internal state with the external tactics, and you can then move yourself forward. You got to do all those pieces. Because when I was a personal trainer, I gave so many training plans to people, and 80% of people didn't follow the plan. The plan would work as prescribed if you would follow it. It's not the plan, it's the internal programming that prevents you from taking action into the plan. So you have to, no matter if you want to change your financial destiny, I could give you the blueprint. If you just basically bought Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you kind of, maybe got a sprinkling of other layer ones, and you cost average in over time, you will change your life in 5 years, right? That's kind of how it's going to go. Yeah. But most people won't follow that plan because of the emotion that comes up when things squeeze back and then they end up making mistakes. You have to get the internal frequency, consciousness, and energy sorted out inside of you so that you can stick to the plan and actually execute it. And I think that's what makes us a little bit unique on that project, the Conscious Crypto Circle. Yeah.
It's quite beautiful. I majored in economics in university, and then getting involved in Reiki and doing that and allowing the energy
Me
to help
and my
guide.
team of top psychics individually assess the projects, which give us a much better picture and read of their potential likelihood in the future.
Right.
And we've been doing this since 2017. We haven't got everything right, but we've pretty much got it right. And we're supporting people who want to join a positive, uplifting spiritual community, who want to help change the world and use this technology to help free themselves and their families and create some generational wealth along the way. It's been an interesting little side project, and a blooming, beautiful community that's happening along the way.
Yeah, lovely. And I've got two more memes here I want to share. Right, as a great segue from what you said.
Oh
Christoph. I was ready to
I
hear,
love this
right?
one.
Like for all you folks who have been so upset that you might be trapped in that Babylonian system, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, this is just your spirit guides rejoicing. You're here on this earth at this new time, right? Fucker finally did it. It's just fantastic.
Yes, I love that one. Yeah,
And then we have this other one for those of you who feel like you're kind of stumbling and falling, like you just keep going. It's a choice. You heard Christof say that you can be in the digital prison or digital sovereign of freedom, and that's
right. You asked me to find a couple of memes I like. Yeah, they were the two I picked.
Hey everybody, it's Brad here. Our show will continue in a moment real quick. If it resonates with you, drop a like, follow us, and subscribe to the show. Hear from cutting edge guests who are experts in their field, have a lot of laughs, and discover some powerful tips on how you can thrive through 2025 in this amazing golden era of humanity. So give us a like, drop a comment, follow us right now as we fight back on the war being waged on humanity right now. And by the way, if you feel so inclined, please do share this with 9 friends, family, and colleagues as well. I'm deeply honored you're listening to this. Thank you for doing so right now. For those many of you who have taken that step. And here we go, back to our show. To help guide me, as well as technical analysis, as you put it, Christof, and just kind of looking at the trends in the market. And with that Alchemy of Abundance course that you guys have coming out, I mean, I'd love to get a copy, so I'll be in contact with Dennis or Andrea and move forward. And that's really, really important, because nowhere, with the exception of one of my mentors, nowhere else have I come across any organization that blends the spiritual with the financial and the technical in order to not only just change your financial picture, but also expand your life overall. And it's really amazing that you guys have it all. And your tagline is spirituality, prosperity, sovereignty. And your 2 images, you have the phoenix rising from the ashes. You have the infinity symbol as well. So just love it. Love it. Thank you for your time today. Before we sign off, is there any other message that you have for humanity where you can leave people with this podcast and they would be like, well, I just want to go and reverse that and listen to these last 20 seconds or 60 seconds, especially as we move forward in this amazing Aquarian age?
Beautiful. Final message that I'd like to share is that just soften your heart and learn to live with that joy in your heart. Bring the joy back. If you can just bring gratitude into your life, it literally is the gate opener for everything, because your cells, the frequency of your cells open, and then living with joy is our natural expression. So just find moments to be joyful, and know, please know that we've got this. More people are waking up. There's the technologies coming, changing the world. We're about to shift into this extraordinary age of a renaissance. This great renaissance that is coming in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be absolutely mind-blowing for humanity as to how much prosperity, abundance, joy, and culture is going to get unlocked, and the value that's going to get unlocked as culture gets monetized in a digital way, as we come back to the family, as we come back to their core unit. So my final message is turn up for yourself, turn up for your family, Start there. Then sort of spread that love and joy through your local community. This starts at the grassroots level, and there's no thing in the world that can snuff out joy and love at community and family level. And that's our role as parents, as fathers, as mothers, as lovers, to really sit and bring presence to our children, bring presence and communion to each other through love, and help each other uplift. If we can do that, we've got this.
Absolutely outstanding message, Christof. And another way to get in contact with you is via his personal website, Christof.love, L-O-V-E. All the links will be in the description. So whether you would like to connect with him from a spiritual aspect, healing, join him on one of his trips moving forward, perhaps even have him speak with you, you can connect with him there as well as on the Crypto Circle. And
just go to the bottom of that, and there's an opt-in there. You can join. Probably the best way to stay connected is through my newsletter. I get a lot of beautiful comments. My writing and pieces I send out once a week keeps people going on the upward spiral up. And it's been a great privilege and pleasure to meet you and to feel a real brother there in you, Brad. Someone who's beautifully combined the healing arts of Reiki, as well as your soulful soldiering, as well as all this beautiful work that you're bringing forward to help humanity propel forward. Thank you, and Spirit thanks you for your beautiful service. It's been a great privilege and honor to be with you here on the show.
Hey, thank you to you as well and your amazing team. Lovely having you aboard. Ladies and gentlemen, Christof Melchizedek, you've got all the links. They're scrolling across the bottom here. Please like, subscribe, and share this show with 9 friends and loved ones to help awaken humanity and give them an opportunity. Who wouldn't want to give their opportunity to their friends and their family and their loved ones to expand themselves in all aspects of abundance here? Please, if there's any memes here or something you would like to see on the show or even to share with Christof, if you don't go to his website and subscribe to his newsletter, I don't know why you wouldn't, then please do so right here in the comments. Let us know. Thank you all. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day and week ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm Brad Wozni. Thank you for listening and watching the Sovereign Soul podcast show. Cheers to you and all of the best. Many blessings. Thanks for joining us on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, follow, subscribe, share this with 9 friends and family. And of course, if you enjoy our blinged Buddha firing red pills from his 9mm, let us know. Thanks for joining us on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, follow, subscribe, share this with 9 friends and family. And of course, if you enjoy our blinged Buddha firing red pills from his 9mm, let us know.